Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of News Dabs with Jimmy Young for the Cannabis Multimedia Network. We look for the interesting news items from the emerging cannabis industry from around the world, in the U.S., and in our own home state of Massachusetts. Our top story was splashed across the Boston Herald newspaper over the past few days, and for those on the inside of the cannabis industry in Massachusetts, it comes as no surprise. Since November 20th last year, when sales of cannabis for adult use began, over $70 million has been sold legally here in the Bay State. Now, you of course can track seed-to-sale distribution and sales, so you know where it comes from, who grew it, and what effect it will have on you. The story now is the boost in the illegal sales market. The so-called black market has been around for centuries, and even in a more mature market like California, over 75% of weed is still being bought illegally. This should come as no surprise to anyone who is watching what is going on with this new industry. First of all, the law in Massachusetts allows the homeowner to grow 6 plants per adult per dwelling. That's a lot of weed, folks, like over 60 ounces or 3.5 pounds. What do you think those home growers are doing with that extra weed? They're either gifting it legally or selling it illegally. If you have a medical card in Massachusetts, your limit is 10 ounces over 2 months. Again, you can gift it legally or you middle it to friends. These are the laws now and the realities. So what do you expect? If you buy it legally from one of the recreational stores, one of the 15 open in the state, you're taxed up to 20%. The quality is just not as competitive yet, and while it's legal, people will always take shortcuts in order to save a buck. That's human nature. In the reality of supply and demand, at least now, law enforcement has the legitimate cannabis business people on their side of enforcement. All of these developments are growing pains in a new industry that is still trying just to sort it out in the first few years of its existence. Another growing pain is the social equity programs that were put into law but have yet to be implemented because it is probably the toughest challenge the Cannabis Control Commission has on its plate.
A major part of the solution is going to come from the private sector. We have in our license applications the requirement that people tell us what their plan is to have a positive impact on these communities, and we take that seriously. And when it comes up for when licenses come up for renewal year, we're going to ask people, did you do what you said you were going to do? So we take that seriously. I've had any number of conversations with different companies that are currently in the industry that want to do something here. And they want to create, there's accelerators being created, there's mentoring programs being created, there's all kinds of different experiments going on, if you will. I support them all because it's going to be part of the solution, but it's not one simple answer. It's all the things I just talked about, and they all have to work for us to crack this problem. But we're totally committed. None of the 5 commissioners would have taken this job unless they were committed to that outcome.
Checking the Massachusetts State Tote Board for weekly sales of adult use of cannabis in the Bay State, and sure enough, it was a record week with not one, but 2 $1 million sales days for a weekly total of a record $6,089,424 and a 19-week total of $70,573,958. So here's now a few more news dabs for this week. One from Mexico, which continues to figure out how they will be able to take advantage of the North American green wave. Paul Martin del Campo is a member of the International Narcotics Control Board, and in a meeting in Mexico, he warns about the private commercialization of cannabis. He said there is going to be an industry interested more in increasing profits, and therefore that industry will find ways to influence our decisions just like it did with tobacco and alcohol. Locally in New England, the New Hampshire legislature continues to push forward with its legalization effort and eventual showdown with their governor, Chris Sununu. Pennsylvania's medical program now has over 100,000 participants, and in a recent readers poll in the Alabama Media Group, 97% of over 23,000 participants support a move towards medical cannabis. Now, that poll might not be scientific, but 97% is a pretty big percentage, let's just say. And since we are below the Mason-Dixon line, we check in with CMN's own Liz Damron, who is hanging out with one General Lee. Now, that's the car from the old Dukes of Hazzard TV series in the 70s and 80s, and she caught up with a music legend named Johnny Rock, who studied at Berkeley here in Boston and has played with some of the all-time greats.
Breaker, 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 breaker. This is Liz Damron. We are headed to the Bo Dukes extravaganza. Woo! It's going to be a super fun time. We're going to go check it out and see what's happening. Stay tuned.
That was fun.
All right. Hey, it's Liz Damron, Cannabis Multimedia Network, and Johnny Rock just back from a helicopter ride at the Bo's extravaganza. How was it?
It was, I got high.
Oh, he got high. Ew.
Very high up there. Yeah, it was a blast. It's the first time I've ever been in a helicopter.
Really? No
Well,
kidding.
no. I was in a helicopter at Chuck E. Cheese Pizza, and I got stuck. And they had to call the paramedics to help get me out. They don't let me in Chuck E. Cheese Pizza anymore.
Well, you know, at least you got on a regular ride. All right, you guys. Well, real quick question that I know everyone is curious. So, Dukes of Hazzard culture has kind of opened up a lot of eyes way back in its time. You know, like people didn't understand race. Do you think that bodes well for cannabis and where we're going in the future?
Well, it's definitely changing. I think, awareness and education is much more.
Oh, yeah.
So the more you educate, the more people are aware.
That's retired Marine Sergeant Liz Damron, our research psychologist down there in New Orleans, waving the cannabis advocacy flag. Get used to it, folks. It's a whole new world of weed out there. For the Cannabis Multimedia Network, I'm Jimmy Young, and here's a few more cannabis-friendly events in the greater Boston area over the next few weeks.